Hi, it's John Krantz of Consim Press, and this is an introduction covering U-boat display mats. What I'm showing right now actually is a U-boat display mat on the left, and to the right, positioned alongside it, is our U-boat combat mat. These are basically the two major components you're going to need to have set up for play on your tabletops, with some markers going obviously on them to track statuses or to resolve ship encounters. And that's what the U-boat combat mat is used for. It's to resolve ship encounters. Since we're going to be covering that in a future video installment, we're not going to be mentioning the U-boat combat mat anymore. So let's turn our attention to the U-boat display itself. So I'm going to go ahead and focus in on it a little bit here so you can see it. So we have quite a bit of information on the U-boat display. So let me just quickly go through it, and then I'll explain it one last time. But this time, the second time, with some markers placed on it. So let's just see what we have. We have an upper header area, and that's the white section, where we have just several markers we place on here. It has to do with the officer rank or the commandant's rank, any associated medals or rewards. That's the Knight's Cross. And then jumping to the right, we have a overall crew quality marker we would place in a space to track the quality of our crew, as well as there are certain random events that will get markers in the game because we do have to track them, and that's where those markers would end up going. There is a little bit of more information in the header area. If I zoom in on it a little bit more here for you to see it, obviously we have the type and model of the U-boat we're selecting for gameplay. It's the Type 7C. Notice it's available in October 1940, and that's when the first patrol would be starting in the game, which you would use on your log sheet. You would start in that row for October 40 for your first patrol assignment. And then we'll get into later, especially we'll be doing a separate installment or video on actual game setup of actually setting up your U-boat display mat to get ready for your first patrol. So we will get into more detail later, but basically there's a section here that explains the torpedo load, the capacity for this Type 7C, as well as a mix of torpedoes between G7A steam and G7E electrics. Gives you a small number telling you how many you can have of each, but you can adjust that mix, in this case, by 3 torpedoes in either direction. Again, we'll get into covering that much more in a later installment. So just to do the top section for now, just to cover that. Okay, officer rank. There's up to 5 different numbered ranks from 1 lowest to 5 highest, and I'm just going to go ahead and place my starting rank. We'll assume I'm starting at a level 2 rank, Capitan Lieutenant rank, and Lieutenant rank rather, and so here we have our Capitan Lieutenant marker placed in the space. I would also be starting out, if I had any medals or rewards, Knight's Cross markers would go in there to track that. I don't have any. Crew quality, you can have 4 different levels of crew quality. And I'll just go ahead and place just a sample marker. Let's assume we're at a trained level, which is actually where you would start during play. Now, random events can happen during play. That's covered later. But if you do have a certain random event, and there's 2 specifically that we want you to track with markers. One is a superior torpedoes random event, which means you're going to have better results with your torpedoes for the current patrol assignment you're on, and that's to serve as a reminder that you have that for your current patrol. So you would place a marker there. So that covers some of the markers you would have placed there. Next, what we have is you have your armaments for your U-boat. So the green section with the boxes, this has to do with all your torpedo loads as well as your ammo rounds for deck guns. Flak doesn't have any ammo rounds. It's unlimited ammo, but you do have a status to track of your flak gun as far as if it needs repairs or if it's inoperable. So I'm just going to throw some counters on here just to give you an example of how this display might look during play. So I'm just throwing a few markers on here, and I'm not going to put the total capacity on here. Let's say I'm in the middle of a patrol already, so this could be a game in progress. So I'm just going to show, just basically just some torpedo markers in here, but maybe not all of them. For the deck guns, it says I have a total capacity of 10 ammo rounds. Let's assume we've still got some ammo rounds left that we can use for the current patrol. So here's an example where the ammo rounds would go up to a total of 10. Again, the status spaces here are if the deck or flak gun took any damage. Let's just assume for this video there was no damage taken yet in the game. Now let's talk about damage some more. So in the next sections, I'm going to scroll down here a little bit to the damage area. What we have here is damage to the hull and as well as flooding level, and these are increments. So you can basically progressively track the amount of damage you're taking. So for hull damage, let's say you've taken a little bit of hull damage, you would place it somewhere on this track if you were taking on some damage during your current patrol. And flooding as well. You might be in the middle of a combat round where you're incurring flooding, or you just might not have any flooding to track at the moment, so we'll just set it aside. Just place it in a convenient location where we might be using it later if we have any flooding to track. We're going to scroll down here to the next area now, and let's assume that we're actually out on patrol already. So typically before you start the game or during refit, you have your U-boat, which is the Type 7C marker, is going to be in the in-port space, but let's assume we're already doing a patrol for the British Isles, so maybe we're just in the middle of that. And what happens is you move your U-boat from left to right, and let's just pretend we're in the middle of a current patrol assignment. So this is perhaps where the marker is to track the progress you're making for your current patrol. And basically for every space you enter, you roll once for a possible encounter. So that's just a quick example where the marker might be. Now, if some damage has been taken on already, what's going to happen is you're going to be placing some damage markers. So let me show that to you here. So first of all, in the counter mix itself, we had some extra counters. So you've got some options. You can use a generic damage marker, which means there's no system name on it. So basically, it could go on any space whatsoever. It's not going to matter. The trick, of course, is you don't want your tabletop to get disrupted where some counters get moved or jostled out of position. Now you're not going to know what that marker was for anymore. And by the way, on the flip side, we have what's called the inoperable state. And when you finish a combat round, you're going to be doing repairs out at sea for all your systems, and your systems will either be repaired or they'll go from damaged to inoperable. But if you're in the middle of a combat, as you take damage, you're going to be tracking your damage as you take it. So that's why we have a damage side. So let's pretend we've actually had some past activities and you failed a repair roll, so your periscope happens to be currently inoperable. And notice I have a named marker in this case, which is just better to track things with in case that counter gets moved. And we'll do the same thing with batteries. So my battery powered, let me turn this over. So for batteries, that we have right here a space for, let's say we failed the roll for our batteries as well. So we'll go ahead and place a marker there. We're going to pretend nothing's happened with our engines, our electric or diesel engines. They're all operating perfectly fine, or perhaps they got damaged in a previous combat, but they were repaired right away at sea, so there's no inoperable marker on those. So basically, you can see here now we've got the U-boat in the middle of its patrol activity. We've got some inoperable systems, which means there could be some negative modifiers there. And the last thing would be obviously your crew status. So let's say your generic crew has taken some light wounds, some damage from some depth charges in the past, which may have unfortunately also resulted in a specific crew member taking a KIA result, your second watch officer. Let's say they were killed in action, and perhaps we had a seriously wounded crew space as well. So obviously we got dinged here pretty good for this current patrol assignment. We've got a lot going on there. Now, as I mentioned, crew status, when it's status, it's not just injury, but there's also some promotion roles for your crew. And one example of promotion is becoming what's called the experte level for certain named positions or specialized positions. And let's say our engineer is now considered an experte rank or ability, which provides some benefits for doing repairs. Basically, it's a -1 die roll modifier, helps you repair your systems that maybe you're checking for here during combat. So this is basically right now, let me zoom back down. This would be an example of what a display mat's pretty much going to look like at a given point during an actual patrol assignment. You're going to have your captain rank, or commandant rank. You're going to have your crew level placed. You might not have any random markers at all. I just placed one there. I don't have the Knight's Cross yet, so nothing in there yet. You're going to have some assortment of torpedoes, perhaps some ammo rounds left for your deck guns. then we might have some damage to the hull due to some depth charge attacks we've taken already, or perhaps from an air encounter. We've just taken on some hull damage there that we're tracking. And at the present time, there's no flooding that we have to be worried about. And you can see our U-boat's currently out on its British Isles patrol assignment at the current time. And we've got some, obviously, some systems that are inoperable, and we've got some crew with some lighter severe injuries or wounds that have taken place. And we have a KIA. We have our second watch officer, unfortunately, that was killed in action. And finally, we had our engineer upgraded to an experte level, which provides benefits. So that, in a nutshell, is basically how the U-boat display mat's going to look for you and be used to track everything during play. And I hope you found this helpful. Now, I definitely recommend you look for the video tutorial we're providing on how to set up for play, which gets into more details of how to set up your U-boat display mat before you start your very first patrol assignment. Thanks for watching.